Crowhill here. Today we review a porter and discuss the fall of England.
All right, how you doing? Good to see you, Crowhill.
Hey, good to see you, Bigweed.
So what did you order here? This is beautiful.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. This is the vanilla porter from Founders. Chesterton pulled it out of the basement here, and 6.5%, sort of a robust porter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, porters typically, a regular porter would be 4.5%, 5%. This
Right.
one's a little jacked up. A little bit up on the IBUs, too. IBUs
Yeah.
is, when we say IBUs, that's international bittering units. That's how much bitterness there is in the beer. And
So it says subtle coffee notes and sweet vanilla aromas.
okay, all right.
Well, you tell me if you're getting any of that stuff.
Well, interesting aroma. A little bit of vanilla aroma.
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Black
Oh,
like
wow.
SOB.
Wow. And yeah, very, very distinct vanilla flavor right from the top, I think. And a little bit of coffee flavor.
Yeah, and some coffee chocolatey flavors with the vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
A nice creamy mouthfeel.
Yeah.
It's like the soft serve twist that's half.
Ah, there you go. Half chocolate and half vanilla.
Yeah.
There you go. That's an interesting analogy. Yeah.
So it's like that plus 6.5% alcohol.
Yeah, very nice. So Founders is a good brewery. They do a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, they
So,
do. I've never seen this before, and it was
yeah.
reasonable $10.99.
Okay, there we go.
Very
Okay, so what's on your mind?
Man, how about that Syrian boy that was waterboarded on a school playground? How about that?
What? What, in Abu Ghraib or something?
No, this was in jolly old England.
In England?
Yes.
A Syrian boy was waterboarded on a playground.
Yeah.
That's the story.
That's the story.
That's the story?
Yes. Now, this little turd was, by all accounts, a violent, nasty little boy.
The little Syrian kid.
The little Syrian kid.
Right.
Very disrespectful to all women and all girls.
Right.
Beat up girls. Bullied kids when he could. Threatened to...
Beat up girls, and they didn't do anything about that?
No, he had over 100 disciplinary write-ups.
Okay. 100 disciplinary... I mean, usually I think like 3, and that's...
That doesn't get kicked out of the school or something.
Yeah.
No. So, he threatened to rape 9-year-old twins who happened to have a big brother. And what does a big brother do in a situation like that?
Well, if he's a decent big brother, he steps in and says, "Don't you dare, or I'll kick the crap out of you."
Yeah, or just kick the crap out of you right away, and then say, "Don't you dare."
Exactly.
But he actually just sort of grabbed him, put him on the ground, and said, "Go ahead, say it. Say what she said." Mm-hmm. He never did. He poured some water on the kid and walked away.
Poured some water, like from a water bottle?
Yeah, a water bottle.
Yeah. Poured some water on it. That's waterboarding now?
Well, if you read the headlines, that's exactly what it is. It's a racist attack on an innocent...
Racist attack.
Yes.
So he didn't attack him because he threatened to rape his sisters. He attacked him because of his race.
Well, because they had video.
Because if
that's all you need to know.
a white kid had threatened to rape the girls, that would have been okay. But the problem was it was a black kid. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Or not even black. It's Syrian, right?
Yes. So this story went so viral that it cost the headmaster his job. Mm-hmm. It cost multiple people their job.
Okay.
And that finally, to make the thing go away, they closed down the school.
Oh, that'll solve it.
The kid had to go into hiding for years.
Which kid? The good kid.
The good kid.
Yeah.
The defender of
what happened to the Syrian
defender
kid?
of sisters.
He's probably in Parliament. Right?
No, first off, he got 165,000 pounds from GoFundMe.
Wow.
Then he sued Tommy Robinson in court for defaming him. So he probably did just fine, but everybody else's lives were ruined.
Wow.
Just because of this, a know-nothing incident, smaller than happens 1,000 times a day on schoolyards everywhere.
Right. But because there
are certain convenient elements here.
Because it fits the narrative.
The narrative
that the media wants to promote. This is exactly what we want. Some racist white British kid, who is going to pick on an immigrant who's not white. This poor little kid who's not doing anything wrong.
Just trying to escape war in Syria.
Right. Yeah. Never mind that he has 100 disciplinary actions against him.
Yeah, yes, and by all accounts was terrible. Well, I don't know.
So why is this happening? I mean, how do we get to a spot where we? I mean, this is so
Piers
outrageous.
Morgan and Theresa May and celebrities world, the local football team,
right?
Everybody coming to the defense of
the crap little Syrian kid.
Yes.
And why are we doing this? Why it's like mass psychosis or something. Why are we putting up with this? Because if you would look at it and say, here's this kid who has 100 disciplinary actions against him, and somebody he didn't even hurt the kid, did he? He knocked him down and poured water on him.
No, he grabbed him by the shirt and pushed him on the ground. He didn't even strike him, which I don't know. I'm not surprised he didn't. I don't know why he didn't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you would think that an older brother or somebody threatens to rape your sisters, I mean, he at least deserves a punch in the face. But,
All right.
Okay.
So what is going on here is...
So there's what is going on here, and why is this conspiracy going on here? Yeah.
All right, do we want to talk about the why, or
let's
outline the conspiracy?
Let's go through what's going on.
All right. There is undoubtedly a migrant crisis going on that in Europe and the Anglosphere that our betters are telling us is not a crisis.
And why is there this migrant crisis?
Yeah.
Why are people fleeing all these countries? Because they're crap.
Yes.
Right? They're fleeing all these crap countries. They want to come into well-run, decent Western countries.
Well, the multiculturalism idea of the 90s sort of pushed the idea that Europe needs to be more welcoming. Not only does it need to be, it's going to be so much better when it welcomes in other cultures, and instead of having Swedish, British, and German culture, each of these countries needs to diversify their culture and water down. And I thought it was a dumb idea 30 years ago, and only now are people realizing it's a bad idea. However, they have kicked in the immigration into overdrive, and in the worst possible way. So, by that I mean they're not bringing in families.
Right.
They're bringing in thousands of fighting-age 18 to 30-year-old men.
Yeah.
So if they're fleeing war, what does this 18 to 30-year-old man do when he sees that he's living in a dangerous country? He runs away and leaves the women and children behind.
So, there's a really simple way to stop violence in society. It's really simple.
Oh, yeah?
You just take every man between the age of about 16 and 30 and put him in jail. and then, let him go when he's like 30 or so. And basically that would eliminate the vast majority of crime. Because the most crime is committed by men in that age group.
So those are the people
we want to import.
Exclusively
right.
Importing. And... in a democracy, I mean, isn't that a government policy that gets voted on by the people?
No, of course not.
How is it that every other action that your government takes in a democracy is supposed to be legislated?
I'm increasingly of the opinion that this idea that democracy means anything, that the will of the people means anything, is it's been this constant gaslighting for the last several decades that they've been telling us, we respond. No. If you look at what the people want and what the government does, there's no correlation between those two things.
Yeah.
People, like in the United States, people have been asking for restrictions on immigration since Ronald Reagan.
Yes, yeah.
And what do we get?
It's been a top priority of all voters. So obviously nobody in Europe voted for this. Nobody in Europe is asking for this.
Some group of elites, some group of people in Belgium or wherever are saying this is what we need to do because of, some sort of an agenda. And the multicultural agenda is part of it. So can I take a slight detour and just talk about why are all these countries in the West and in the United States, what is their possible motivation for trying to bring all these people in?
All right.
Okay, so just real quick. Their economies are based on growth, and they don't have enough population. So they need to bring in people, right? 2, this one's a little darker. They hate their own people and their own culture, so they want to bring in a different culture.
Because they're Marxists.
So, yeah. 3, they have this globalist idea of sort of a homogenized world where England is no different from Zambia. Like everything is just one world.
Yeah, but or do they emphasize that Zambia needs to be less Zambian?
No.
That Thailand needs to be less Thailandish?
No.
That there's any country in the world that needs to water down its culture? Only the West.
Yes, exactly. And then the last one I have here is guilt. That the West is in the privileged position it's in because of sin, because we abused everybody else, and now we're paying for it.
Well, that's Marxist redistribution.
Yeah.
And since you can't elevate everybody, but you can make everybody equally miserable, and it's like, why should Vienna be so safe and beautiful, and Nairobi is terrible?
Yeah. Let's throw a bunch of criminals into Vienna to bring it down, too.
Yes, well, that's how if you're looking for equity and equality and
that's
evenness,
Bergeron.
you can you can do this by bringing everything down.
And that's the only way to do it.
Well,
it's like Harrison Bergeron. You're never going to bring the bottom up. It's never going to happen.
You're never going to make all the kids smart.
Bring the top down, right?
But you can make the smart kids dumb by just not teaching them.
Right.
Yeah. It's busing, really, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll redistribute the kids and make the bad schools better. No, you don't. All you do is make the good schools worse.
Yeah, it never works.
That's what this is here.
And that's not only you're right. That's what's going on. But the really sinister thing about it is there's this conspiracy of all these different elements of society to force this agenda against the will of the people.
Yeah. It's the what do I have down here? It's the unholy alliance between government, media, police, courts, celebrities, liberal elites to facilitate the mass migration from the third world to Europe and the Anglosphere.
Yeah.
The downside of this is 100% evident to the people who are on the ground.
Right.
But the unholy alliance comes together to gaslight, intimidate, insult, and lie to the native population to silence them from complaining. So now the greater crime. So if there's Muslim crime in the street, the crime isn't the problem. Complaining about the crime becomes the problem.
I've always wanted to go to England, and it'd probably be a good idea to go there before it becomes a Muslim country. So I think what I should do is I should get on X, and I should start posting a whole bunch of things that make that Sir what's his name from the Scotland Yard, make him really mad.
Yeah.
To get him to get me arrested over here and extradited to England, then I'd be able to get over there for free.
Well, at least you get
I get a free trip.
You get a free trip, but it's the fact that
they're trying to silence. They're trying to silence their own people.
They're showing up at people's houses.
Yeah. Because of a Facebook post.
Yeah.
I saw one today where they arrested a 9-year-old for posts on Facebook. In England, they arrested a 9-year-old because of things he said on Facebook.
So they're letting out violent criminals.
Well, they got to make room for these horrible right-wing extremists.
Yes, to make room for a guy who... Hold on, what happened? He said the 53-year-old was in the face of officers gesticulating and shouting at them.
Okay, well, you shouldn't do that. Don't shout at officers, but still,
really, you get 26 months.
You're gonna let a rapist out so you can put that guy in jail. I mean,
all right, this. I'm having a hard time corralling this.
It's hard to bring it all together.
Topic, but
yes.
So what got me going is a series of events in England which illustrate this this grand problem.
Okay.
And they are the Syrian waterboarding.
Okay.
The grooming gangs.
Oh, yeah. Which was one of those stories that's so outrageous, you almost can't believe it because it seems too ridiculous to be true.
Yes.
But it is true.
And the contrast between what was permissible for Hamas rallies,
right,
and followed by a previously scheduled Patriot rally,
right,
Patriot March, Tommy Robinson, and who were patriots marching down the street.
What's that? You showed me a good meme that I thought was pretty accurate here. Panel 1, sir, there are riots in the streets. And talking to the police chief, I'm sure the immigrants have valid reasons. It's not the immigrants; it's white people. Arrest them all.
Yes, that's exactly what's going on. Now you would only know that from memes and from X,
right? Because everywhere else it's suppressed.
You see nothing on the BBC.
You'll get arrested,
or
if
the Telegraph,
you dare to say
or
it. If you dare to say it in the street, if you dare to say it on social media, you're going to be arrested. You're going to be fined. They're trying to. It's unbelievable the level of authoritarianism and tyranny that's going on in England right now to suppress views that this cabal doesn't want to come out. And you listed them. I mean, it's media, it's government, it's the elite, it's actors, it's all the people who are in positions of social.
Well, certainly not the Catholic Church.
I don't know about that.
What's Hippie Frank say about it?
Oh my gosh, Hippie Frank. He just recently said something about
it's wrong, a grave
sin not to allow migrants. I don't see Vatican City bringing a whole bunch of migrants in. I think we should just ship ours over there.
And they have one. And
they have a big wall.
They have one heck of a wall.
They have one heck of a wall. Yeah, I think actually it's really nice that Francis said that. We should just start shipping all our migrants over to Vatican City. You know how Joe Biden has been taking all these migrants and flying them on planes to different places? We should just fly them all to Vatican City and let Frank the hippie Pope deal with them. That'd be good.
Yes, so they want to come up with a definition of Islamophobia.
Okay.
So that they can just start locking up their own citizens.
Yeah.
All right.
Come up with one?
Can I talk to you about the element of fear?
Okay.
And how this works and how it's 100% going to backfire.
Okay.
So the deal is, if you make Muslims mad, they make a lot of trouble.
True.
So if you allow Brits to point out
what the Muslims are doing,
yes,
grooming gangs and people crapping on the street, and
the fact that there are no-go zones, police aren't allowed to enter.
That Muslim men,
Sharia law is
Muslim men are approaching women on the street and yelling at them because they don't think they're dressed appropriately.
Yeah.
I mean that's I see videos of that every single day.
Yes.
Of that kind of behavior. But you can't make them mad because that's not multicultural and that's not being sensitive.
So in a semi-logical sense, the idea of community cohesion is that you don't want to make the Muslims too mad.
Yeah.
Now but the practical application of that is you don't tell them not to do anything or arrest them for doing anything wrong because that might make them mad, and you also don't allow native Brits to complain about them. So that their idea is, I would rather beat up native Brits, jail them, and shut them up because that is actually an easier battle than if you inflame and enrage the Muslim monsters you have allowed into your country.
So to a certain extent, I can understand that kind of an attitude. Let's not make them mad. Okay, but what if what they're doing is putting together grooming? Yeah, it's putting together grooming gangs and grabbing 11 and 12-year-old girls and serially raping them, and like hundreds of girls and raping them. Are you gonna? we don't want to make them mad,
Yeah.
so we're not going to expose that.
Yes.
And this is
And
when I first read that story, it was like it was so crazy you couldn't even believe it. But it's turned out to be true.
And they turned a blind eye to it for a long time.
Yes.
And many men have been arrested and put in jail, but not nearly enough.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact
that
it was allowed, the only fact because there was one person who was willing to report on it, who was
brave enough to come out and then say this is what's going on and report on it.
And what are they doing? That was Tommy Robinson, and they put him in jail,
and they're trying to make him out to be Hitler.
They bankrupted him.
Right, yeah.
They costed him his marriage.
Yes,
and his life's. They put him. They tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Now, the parents of the waterboarding, the fake waterboarding story, they gave the mother and daughter coverage, or housing.
Okay.
In a 1-star hellhole in the most Muslim section of the city.
Yeah, exactly.
And the cops drove her there. That is their what do they call it? They call that police protection or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're actually almost trying to get their own citizens killed in order to stop them from complaining about Muslim crime. Because if we go in there and try to enforce this, it's going to make them mad, and soon the cops will be beheaded. Or
whatever. I want Merlin and Arthur to come back.
God, I've wanted to go to England all my life.
I know. Have you ever read the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis?
No.
No, okay. Well, the third book of the Space Trilogy is called That Hideous Strength, and for some reason I have this sick obsession with that book, and I've read it many, many times. Well, in that book, Merlin comes back into 20th century England.
Oh, yeah.
And Merlin is this bloodthirsty, he's like, well, why don't we just go kill them? He's very straightforward and direct, and like, okay, we have this problem. All right, fine, I'll go take care of that. And the polite English guy who's in charge is like, no, we can't do those things that way. And I wonder from time to time if the only hope for England is for Arthur and Merlin to come back and
restore some medieval order.
Yes, some medieval order. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty dreadful. So I wanted to go through this list of the kinds of things that are going on in England that all these right-wing extremists are upset about.
And that you're told are not happening.
That you're told are not happening. So there's mass immigration. And for a long time, they lied about it. They told us that, no, this idea that all these people are coming in the country is a lie. They were just playing
But this has to do with every incident. First off, it's not happening.
Right.
Then followed by, yes, it is happening, and it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
That happens over and over.
Yes, yes. And there's different variations on that, but it's the same thing. Okay, multiculturalism policy, weak border control, asylum and refugee policies where we give asylum seekers better rights. Like, for example, this is the United States, you're in Chicago, and you're an illegal immigrant who came in from Guatemala or someplace. You get a place to stay, spending money, a free phone,
free meals.
But the person who's native born living in Chicago doesn't get squat.
Doesn't get anything.
Yeah, and the same sort of thing is happening all over the West.
Yeah.
This idea of
they're building housing in small town Ireland.
Right.
And do they build houses for needy Irish?
There are little towns in Ireland where they just ship it. Like, there's a little town with 500 people in it, and they ship 700 Muslim refugees into that town.
Give them housing.
Yeah, right. Like, what are they doing?
And they're men. They don't have any women. Where do you think they're going to get the women?
Right.
They don't have jobs.
Yeah.
They don't have any skills.
Yeah.
They don't speak English. And guess what? The Irish aren't having it. Yeah. So they, the Irish know their way around a Molotov cocktail. And they have, they have burned down these attempts at building. And, who
can blame them? So then there's the problem, the failure to address Islamic extremism, where you have men going around insulting women, raping women, doing all these things. They're afraid to address it. There's suppression of criticism of Islam. If you say a word against Islam, you can go to jail. But if a Muslim goes and rapes somebody, we'll cover that up for you. There's failure to protect British culture. There's the grooming gang scandal. There's the whole question of the EU. Like, how long did it take to get out from under that? And they're still not quite. It's just like example after example after example where what the British public want is not what their leaders are doing.
No, they lied to them about it, and they're lying about where this money is coming from. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they don't have the money to build free housing for native-born citizens, but they do have the money, and this is everywhere. This is the United States and Australia and everywhere. And none of this goes to the legislature. There's no who controls the purse strings.
There's no democratic process.
There's no budget.
At all. Right.
There's no budget involved for any of this.
Right.
And they say it's not happening. Let me just by way of not having some numbers available. This is Denmark.
Okay.
And it's the violent crime rates.
Okay. In Denmark.
By nationality. And so Denmark is 1. Denmark is the baseline.
Sure.
So if you're 0.5, you're half as likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So MENAPT, do you know that term? I think they made it up. The Danish did. It's Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan.
Okay.
So just like a collective term.
All right.
So you've got Kuwait at 9 times.
Wow.
More like
so people who are in Denmark from Kuwait.
Kuwait, Tunisia, Lebanon, Somalia, and Jordan are the top 4, and they're all between 7 times and 9 times.
Right.
Then you've got Uganda, which is up there. Now you're back into the MENAPT. You've got Iraq, Algeria, and Morocco. So
all Muslim countries so far.
All Muslim countries so far. Then you get a couple of Middle Eastern Europeans. There's Serbia and Yugoslavia. But then now we're back to the usual suspects: Egypt, Iran, Afghanistan,
right?
Kenya. So if people who do surveys and compile statistics, aren't they? Don't you do that for a reason, to inform future policy? Isn't that the point of the collection of the data?
You would think so. You would think that you want to have information to base your policy on.
So you take some information like this, you present it to the Dutch government, and you go, well, and what would the conclusion be? I mean, what would be the craziest conclusion? You'd be like, maybe we need less of those people.
Right. That would be a reasonable conclusion.
And I'm sure that has not weighed in on their immigration policy.
No.
No,
of course not. And this is the kind of thing that people, and I don't know whether people in Denmark are responding to this, but you would think that a regular citizen in Denmark would look at this and say, who authorized this? Who asked for this? Who authorized this? Who's in charge? Why are you allowing this? What are you doing to fix it?
Why can't we get these people out?
Yeah, why are you doing this? Things were going okay.
Okay, so speaking of nobody authorizing this, you know who doesn't have this problem? I saw this map of the number of terrorist attacks since 9/11. You know, like little red dots. There are 0 in Poland or Hungary.
Wow.
You know what they do in Hungary and Poland?
They come out.
They just don't let them in. They just respond. They say, well, I saw this guy from Hungary, taken to task by the BBC or whatever.
Right.
Well, he said, how many Middle Eastern refugees have you taken in? He said 0. Well, you seem kind of proud of yourself there, aren't you? Like chastising him. He's like, we are a government that responds to our people. Our people have said that they don't want them in the country, and so they're not in. So they're being fined every day by the EU. Both the
EU, like. You have to be an idiot. You have to be an idiot to be a member of the EU.
I thought Brexit was the greatest thing, and who knows, they might be back in it before it's all over.
It was a stupid idea from the beginning.
Terrible.
And it's obviously been a disaster. Everybody who, basically, if you lose an election in your home country, then you become an administrator in Brussels for the EU.
As an unelected bureaucrat, making laws for everybody.
Yeah.
Because the people in your country didn't want you to make them for them.
I think there should be every other country should follow England's lead and just get out of the EU. It's just a catastrophe. But anyway, so Poland and Hungary don't have this problem because they're not letting them in.
Why would you?
Yeah. Okay. And so let's get back to this question of multiculturalism, because there is a sense in which multiculturalism is correct, right? I mean, it is nice to learn what other cultures do, to learn about their foods, to learn about their music, to learn about their art, to learn about, different ways that they do things. That's all nice and pleasant and interesting, right?
Yeah, that the benefits of being exposed to another culture.
Right. It's like a cosmopolitan kind of an idea.
Are good.
Yes. And that's all great. And that's all great stuff. However, in reality, if you want to have a cohesive community, you can't have a bunch of people living in the same community where some of them believe it's okay to crap in the gutter, and some of them, like, say, if you go out and walk your dog, they yell at you because they say dogs are unclean, and we don't want dogs around. And if your daughter goes out wearing a short sleeve shirt, then she gets yelled at by people saying, no, that's disrespectful.
There's always been room for immigrants.
Yes.
Most cultures, particularly in the West, have always made room for those cultures, but there was an expectation of assimilation.
Exactly.
Until they made assimilation itself a racist term.
Right. So now there's zero assimilation and there's Sharia courts.
So what assimilation doesn't mean you get off the boat and you put on blue jeans and a cowboy's hat,
right? And
you stop speaking your language and eating your food and your none of that. None of that goes on.
Yeah,
people have no problem.
You can eat your own food. That's fine.
But you have to respect your host nation.
Yes,
and you have to abide by its laws.
You can't go to the pool and yell at the women for the bathing suits they're wearing
and grope them and crap on the beach.
Right.
And show a little appreciation for the country that lets you in. So here's a quote-unquote British Islamic cleric saying, we don't like your culture, gambling, homosexuality, promiscuity, and man-made laws. We believe Islam is the best way of life. Sharia is the best law. Sovereignty belongs to Allah. Mm-hmm. And the response of the guy is like everybody else's, well, please pack your bags and go live in a Muslim hellhole then.
Right.
Right? So if you don't... I get it. Right? Pornography and promiscuity and...
all that stuff, sure. Yeah, maybe that is... Okay, that is not a good thing about the West, but...
That's a consequence of the freedom.
It's the price you pay for freedom. And to some extent, we've gone too far in allowing some of that. So to some extent, I sympathize with the Muslims who come and say, look... you've gone too far in that direction. Okay, fine, we've gone too far in that direction. But you are 7 million times too far in the other direction.
You're 700 years in the past,
right?
For one. And how about this? No, you can't beat your wife or have a 12-year-old bride because Muhammad says it's okay.
Right.
That's not how this works.
Right. I saw a video of a Muslim cleric the other day talking about at what age a Muslim man can marry a woman. He put no bottom limit on it. No bottom. A Muslim man could marry a 5-year-old.
Well, I mean, if Muhammad is perfect,
and he married a 9-year-old,
is your role model.
Yeah.
Well, how could you, as a devout Muslim, say, well, Muhammad was good in most things, but I'm telling you, he got it wrong here and there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do?
But if you point that out to a crowd of Muslims, Muhammad married a 9-year-old.
Right.
They're going to get all mad at you and yell and scream and try to kill you for saying that. Well, even though it's straightforwardly true.
Yes, if you're a Christian and you read from the Quran,
yes,
in public, that is
a hate crime.
That is a hate crime.
Yeah. And how did we get here? it's almost unbelievable
It is.
how crazy things have become.
Now, in terms of there was a poor fella who got taken to task for having a hate-filled license plate that said "assimilate."
Okay.
Now,
yeah, that's
here. Hold on. You have to solve this riddle for me.
All right.
He was a Star Wars fan.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
What did he mean?
So the Borg,
Yes.
the Borg in
Yes.
Star Trek said, "You will be assimilated."
Yes.
Resistance is futile.
Exactly.
Yes.
So here, this poor Star Trek fan thought he was making a joke, an inside joke amongst the other. Hey, guess what? The other Star Trek guys, they'll know what I'm talking about. It's gonna be great.
Right. And then he gets arrested.
He gets a visit by the
police
and the DMV police.
No, guys, I was talking about episode 37.
Resistance is futile. Tell me you don't know that one. Come on. Everybody knows that. But just the idea that this suggesting that yes, other cultures are welcome with a certain degree of assimilation. Has now become hate-filled.
Right. So is England lost?
Well, yes, because Christopher Hitchens, God rest his soul, said, I don't know, it had to be 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. He said he saw this coming.
Right.
He says, soon you won't even be able to complain about it.
Right.
You have to stop this now. And no truer words were ever spoken.
Right.
And
now you can't complain.
And now it's too late. Now the numbers. This is the levels of the problems are terrible. But here, let me give you some shocking numbers.
It certainly is to the point right now where you can't complain about it. If you complain about it, the police will come and arrest you and put you in jail. That is true. However,
and the thought police and the celebrity police and the social pressure police and getting canceled
and the
from
social
your job.
all the social platforms will do their bidding. YouTube will do their bidding, and Instagram will do their bidding. However, there is a little bit of hope in the groups that go out and have these demonstrations and say, no, we don't want this. There might be the beginnings of
enough is enough.
Enough is enough, and we're done with this. Maybe, I don't know. It might be too little, too late.
This is so with all this level of enough is enough because the problems are just getting too much. The Muslim population in the United Kingdom is 4%.
Yeah, it's really.
So when are you going to stand up and say enough is enough when it's 20%?
The charts. I pulled up some charts today about the ethnic composition of Britain and the religious composition of Britain, and the numbers in Britain are actually not as bad as they are in the United States. If you look at the white population of the United States, it used to be like 95%, and now it's like 56% or something like that. Huge drop off. In England, it's not that way at all. The white British in 1950 were very close to 100%, but even now in 2020 anyway, it's at about 75%.
Right.
So the replacement, if you want to use that word, in England is not as bad as it is in the United States. And then if you look at it by religious affiliation, they're really. If the Muslim population of England in 1950 was, like 1 or 2%. In 2020, it's, I don't know, around 8 or something like that. It's not huge. But the real telling figure is this one. Look at the Christian population of England has changed from, close to 90% in 1950 to about 45% in 2020. So but anyway, the thing that was interesting to me is that by raw numbers, they're actually better off than we are in a lot of ways.
Well, no, because the reduction of the percentage of white people has been offset by Christian Hispanics. And theirs has been
in the United States. Exactly, that's a good point.
Yeah, theirs being offset by Middle Eastern and North African Muslims.
That's a good point, because when the United States is bringing in people from Mexico and South America, generally speaking, they're Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
So and about the thing that the migrant crime isn't really happening, as I mentioned, there's 4%, but it's 18% of prison inmates.
Right.
But wait, the higher you go up the criminal justice system, the greater the proportion identifying as Muslim. More than 40% of prisoners in the high security prisons.
Wow.
So the worst of the worst is now gone from 8%, 4% in the country to 18% in the prison to 40% of the most dangerous criminals and the most willing, just to
mayhem.
Chop somebody's head off. Now, I've also heard that, speaking of assimilation, that for I don't know what reason it would be that America they tend to get less radicalized. So you have calmer, more assimilated Muslims
in America
than you do
in
Britain. And Tommy Robinson was talking about the town he was from. The major mosque in Luton was the hotbed of jihadi recruitment.
Why do we let that happen? If the government knows...
Does a church stop an FBI member from going and sitting in the pews?
No.
Why?
So why aren't we monitoring mosques? And if there's jihadi stuff going on, why do we let that happen?
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
Yeah. And if you find out that it's the source, and this I wish I had the notes on me. If you find out that this mosque is the source, then you arrest the people at the top and you tear down the mosque.
Maybe. Maybe just getting rid of the troublemakers is the solution. But, one way or another, you have to be watching it.
Tens of thousands of them.
Yeah. You have to be watching it. Anyway, it's crazy. So I wanted to kind of go back to one thing that I thought about starting with, which just is my fondness for England. I've never been there. And there are a lot of things about England.
I'm a full-bone Anglophile.
Yeah, you've got King Arthur, you've got Robin Hood, you've got medieval England. When you go to the Renaissance Festival, all the medieval English stuff. Yeah. You got Sherlock Holmes, you've got Chesterton and Lewis and Tolkien, you got Worcester and Jeeves, you've got all this stuff.
Magna Carta.
You've got all these. British things. I love watching British TV. You got Mr. Bean, all this stuff about
Monty
England.
Python. Britain invented, Python, yes. They may have invented freedom.
Yes. And there's, I love English culture, and it would be a horrible thing to see that all fall to these barbarians who crap on the beach.
So the Muslims were held off at the gates of Vienna,
right,
in the 1700s, and 1,000 years before that by Charles Martel in France.
And now they realize they can just walk in.
Yeah. Yes. Europe cannot be defeated by the Muslim world, but they can if they're just so weak-kneed and filled with self-hatred that they just say, "Come in, and here's my neck."
Yeah. So here's a lovely illustration of that. There's a picture of a British Bobby. Together we will make this country.
Yes, but snuggling up to a
Muslim. Yeah, and he's saying, "Together we will make this country yours." And the Muslim is thinking, "Thank you for being so weak."
Let's just end it there.
That's the way it is.
All right. Well, God save the king.
That's right. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.